Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today is the battle of the pumpkin pie syrups. So my plan for today is doing 3 different syrups to make an iced coffee cold foam mixture with pumpkin spice stuff. My plan for today is to test out 3 different pumpkin spice sauces, and we're gonna be making a iced coffee cold foam with each pumpkin spice in the cold foam and see which one is the best. I have a easy one, and that is just this pumpkin pie sauce. And I got this from World Market. I was having trouble finding it anywhere else. Some places said Walmart had it, but I couldn't find it ever there or at Target. So World Market's where I found mine. I know they also have some on Amazon. It's a little more expensive, but so I got this from. And then for my medium recipe, you just have to put all the ingredients into a pot and let it heat up and get all incorporated in. And this one is gonna be a pumpkin marshmallow sauce. Some marshmallow fluff, and I'm gonna be using brown sugar, some pumpkin puree, water, some half and half, and some pumpkin spice seasoning. And we're gonna put that all into one pot and just let that go. So it has 7 ingredients, but altogether it shouldn't take that long because you just have to measure it out and put it into the pot and let it all incorporate together. And for my hard one, it is gonna be just a traditional pumpkin spice syrup, but for this, it has the same amount of ingredients about as the last one, but instead of just throwing it all into one pot at once and then heating it up, this one you actually need to do half of it first, let that all dissolve, and then you strain it out to get out any pumpkin fibers that may be left behind from this. And then you add some sweetened condensed milk in the spices, and that will make it really smooth and it should really come together nicely. So I have 3 different levels, and we're gonna see which one tastes the best, which one takes the longest amount of time, and test out which one should you go for. Should you just go for, it's not worth homemaking it, so it will have this. I was looking at the ingredients, and it has very similar stuff as these. It just has some extra stuff to make them more shelf stable. And for these 2, they should last in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks. So that's also something to think about, is like how often you're gonna be using this, and maybe you'll want to half the recipe or make more if you drink a ton of coffee. So we're gonna get started and let's see which one of the pumpkins wins. Okay, for the first one, I'm gonna start out with my pumpkin marshmallow sauce. I am going to need some marshmallow fluff to begin, and actually calls for a half a cup of fluff, a half a cup of pumpkin, and a half a cup of brown sugar. Use the brown sugar first so I don't have to keep rinsing out my measuring cup. So you wanna get a half a cup of sugar and make sure it's packed in. Whenever you're using brown sugar, you wanna make sure you're packing it down. I'm using light brown sugar. You can use a darker brown sugar if you want yours to have a more molassesy flavor, but right now I only had light brown sugar, so we're just gonna go with that. Okay, that's looking good, so we're just gonna dump it in. It's all going into the same thing, so it doesn't really matter what order you put them in. And we need a half a cup of the marshmallow fluff. I haven't had marshmallow fluff in a long time, so this will be interesting to have. I'll have leftovers, so I'll need to figure out something else to do with this. If you have any ideas of what to do with leftover marshmallow fluff, leave them in the comments below. Okay, that looks pretty good. Is sticky. Should have saved this one for last. I'm gonna leave that in there and just grab a different spatula for the pumpkin. Need a half a cup of this as well. Okay, that's looking good. Get that soaking in some water. And we are going to add, I need 2 teaspoons of half and half. And then I also need a 1/4 a cup plus 2 teaspoons of water, which I already have measured out in here. And then to rinse this out, I need 1 teaspoon of pumpkin spice. I'm gonna do a heaping teaspoon because I really like the seasoning, and teaspoon doesn't seem like that much, especially because I know in my next one I'm gonna have a tablespoon, so that's quite a difference between the 2. So we'll see which one has that pumpkin spice flavor more. And then to finish it off, I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt, just as a pinch, so I'm just gonna do a tiny bit, just to bring out all the flavors. And now I'm gonna get this on the stove. We're gonna put it on low and just let it all combine. You don't wanna see any lumps or bumps. It should all come out smooth. And then once that gets done, we're gonna set it aside to let it cool before putting it in my little jar. I always save jars. This one was a jelly jar and stuff. It's so nice to have just glass containers ready to go for anything that you may need. And this way you save money too, because you're not having to buy a special container. You just are reusing stuff, and it keeps stuff out of the garbage too. So always save your glass containers, especially if it has a nice lid too. They're also great for if you're making dressings and stuff like that. I'm constantly using those and mixing up dressings, and it works perfectly for that. Okay, so we're gonna come over here, turn on, and get to mixing. And you wanna continuously mix until it is all well combined. Most of it's combined. Now I'm just waiting for the marshmallowy bits to melt down. Okay, this is really starting to come along. It is almost ready to go, and then we can start with our other recipe. It is smelling so good in here. You can really smell the pumpkin from the puree and then all the spices that are in the pumpkin spice seasoning. They make my house smell amazing. So I can't wait until both of these are going, and my house should just smell like cinnamon spice for the rest of the day. So I'm very happy about that. That is another benefit of making it homemade, is it makes your house smell incredible too as you are making it. And it's not that complicated. And overall in the long run, you save money. Well, I mean, even with that pumpkin spice stuff, you save money, because if you were to go to like say Starbucks and get this, it's definitely a lot cheaper to make your coffee at home. It has this beautiful brownish, reddish color. I wore this sweater because I thought it kind of looked like the pumpkin spice once it's all mixed up in the cold foam, so dressing for the part. Oh, and I found these recipes on TikTok, so I will leave in the link the original creators that I got these recipes from down there, so you can check out their video too. They did a great job of explaining what they were doing and stuff, so that is what inspired me to do this whole entire video in the first place, so I will leave them linked down below. It'll look something like this. I'm just gonna take it off the heat and move it back and let that cool off completely. Okay, I'm all done with my marshmallow one. That is just cooling so I can put it into my jar. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna start out on my other one. This one was super easy to do. All you had to do was measure the correct ingredients and just keep stirring it until it was done, and only needed to stir for like 3 or 4 minutes. And it smells amazing, so I cannot wait to try it. Now, for this next one, it is a little more complicated. You have to do it in 2 steps. So the first step is measuring out my pumpkin, my water, and my brown sugar. And then I will melt that all together, and then we're gonna strain it to get any extra fibers out that would come from the pumpkin, so it'll be extra smooth. So we'll see how big of a difference it makes to have it just regular with nothing done to it, and with straining it out to see the texture difference. Also, this one has less pumpkin puree, but it has more pumpkin spice. So it'll be interesting to see which one tastes more pumpkin-y and which one has a lot more like of that spicy flavor that you associate with this time of year. So let's give it a try. First of all, we need 1/3 cup of pumpkin spice. Last time it was a 1/2 cup, so do need a little bit less. Not a crazy amount though, so we'll see if it makes any difference. Dump that in here. 1/2 cup of brown sugar, so the same amount of brown sugar in both recipes. This one I have a feeling, well, I don't know which one's gonna be sweeter because they both have the same amount of brown sugar, and for this one, the extra sweetness comes from the marshmallow fluff. And from the one I'm currently doing, the extra sweetness comes from the sweetened condensed milk. So that will also be interesting to see what the sweetness levels are between the two. I used to think nothing was too sweet. And then once I got in my 20s, now things can be too sweet. So I like things still sweet. I definitely have a sweet tooth, but I don't like things like overpoweringly sweet. So we'll see how all of these taste in the long run. I'm gonna test them all individually and then also in the cold foam to see which one I like best. That is looking good. And the last thing we need is a 1/2 cup of water. And we are gonna be putting this on low heat and getting it up to a simmer. And then once it's simmering, we're gonna let that go for about probably 2 to 3 minutes. You want it to go for long enough that it starts to get thicker, but you don't want it to get too thick because you're gonna be straining it through this sieve. And so you wanna make sure that you're keeping an eye on it so it's not getting too thick, but you also want it to not be too thin. So we'll see how this goes. On to low and just start stirring until everything is all together. Okay, that is looking good. So I'm going to bring it over here. I have something to put it in and my strainer. I'm gonna slowly pour it in. Luckily, these pans I have little spouts, so that's gonna make this whole process a lot easier. This one smells really good too. It's not quite as fragrant as the last one because I haven't put in the seasonings yet, but it still has a nice pumpkin-y smell with, you can really smell the brown sugar too, but like a sweet pumpkin. Pour this in slowly so it's not overflowing. And once I get this all poured in, I'm gonna get out a spoon and kind of mix it around to make sure I'm getting all the juice that I can out of it. It is wild how much is actually sticking to it because in the pan, it looks pretty smooth. So this should make it really smooth. Although the only thing that I don't have with this recipe is in the recipe, it called for pumpkin spice extract. I could not find that anywhere for the life of me. I'll just have to go with the pumpkin spice that I have and stuff. So it might make it slightly more gritty, but the seasonings are ground down pretty smooth. So hopefully it won't be too much. Oh yeah, that helps a lot. Wish I had a bigger strainer. I have this one and then I have a bigger one, but it would let through way too much. So having to stick with the tiny one. Really just trying to get every last drop out of it that I can. Try to find something to do with the leftover pulp. Might be good, almost like a pumpkin butter on some like toast or something, or French toast. Ooh, that would be good French toast. I think I got everything that I can get out of this. Still some left over, but not a crazy amount. Okay, and for this next part, I am going to be combining my sweetened condensed milk into this. I have 3/4 a cup left of this pumpkin mixture once everything was drained out. And I'm using a cup of sweetened condensed milk. And you're gonna wanna pour this in. And you're gonna wanna mix these together slowly on a very low heat. You do not wanna use a high heat or it could possibly curdle. And it does take a while for the sweetened condensed milk and the pumpkin mixture to blend together because one is super gelatinous and the other one's way thinner. You be patient and do it low and slow, what I heard. That is what we are going to try. So we got sweetened condensed milk in, and then I'm gonna add my pumpkin mixture. Turn the oven on to low, and you just wanna slowly stir and just keep stirring this whole time until that is all combined. And then we're gonna add our vanilla and our pumpkin spice. And I also might add a little bit of salt. Slowly keep mixing until it is all combined. This one will take a while longer. Is looking fantastic. It is all combined and it actually really matches the color of my sweater right now. It's kind of funny. I knew it was pumpkin spice colored. Now for the final touches, I am going to be adding my vanilla and my pumpkin spice mix. I need a full tablespoon of my pumpkin spice. I'm gonna be using a half, doing 2 of them because my tablespoon does not fit in here. And like I said, I am going a little bit off. In the recipe that the person I'm following used, they used extract, but I do not have that, so I will be using the actual spice, so hopefully it doesn't get too gritty. I don't think it will, but there is a slight difference, so just know that. And if you have pumpkin spice extract, I would use that instead of the actual spices, but you use the same amount. And then we need a half a tablespoon of vanilla, and we're gonna mix that all together until completely combined. I'm guessing it also stirs in better with the actual extract instead of the spice seasoning. It's kind of sticking to the top. Here, I'll show you. It will take longer to stir in this just because you have to kind of fold it in and get it all well combined. Okay, yeah, I can really see why he said to use the extract instead of the actual seasoning because it took forever for it to all blend together. Been here for about 5 minutes trying to mix in that seasoning. It's almost like hydrophobic, and so it doesn't want to incorporate well, and it made a bunch of bumps. I finally got the majority of them out. I'm not gonna be able to get every single one, but it did come together fairly well now. It definitely changed the color quite a bit too, whereas the extract that he showed was clear. So if you have the chance and you can actually get the extract, I would definitely go with that. It does work if you don't, but you're gonna have to put in a lot more effort to get all those lumps and bumps out. So we're gonna just let this one cool off for a little bit too. And then I'm going to clean up and we're gonna put all of my coffee together and do the final taste test. They are all done cooling, so it is time to put them in their jars and then give it a taste test. And then I'm gonna make some cold foam and try out some iced coffee too to see which one I like best individually and to see which one I like best in a cold foam version of it. So first I have my pumpkin spice syrup. This is the hardest one. This is the one that took me the longest, and it took me even longer because I used just regular pumpkin spice seasoning instead of the extract. But overall, I think it still turned out fine. Just took a while to all combine together. So we're gonna just pour this into here. and this should last up to around 2 to 3 weeks in the refrigerator. Okay, and then up next we have our pumpkin marshmallow fluff. This one is a lot thicker than the other one, and this one we didn't strain all the pumpkin out of it, so I'm assuming that's why. I wish they would have put the spout of this on the other side. Okay, and there we have it. I got my pumpkin spice syrup and my pumpkin marshmallow sauce. So I would say that that is a good comparison. This one is definitely more liquidy and syrupy, whereas this one is thicker, so it does feel like more of a sauce. And the color difference is quite striking too. This one is definitely a lot lighter. It did have less pumpkin, so I'm not sure if that's why this one's more orange, and this one has more like the pumpkin fibers just in general. So I'm not sure what the reason is for the color difference, especially because everything else was mostly the same. This one actually had more spice, so if anything, I would have expected this one to be darker, but that's what we got. And then we're gonna give it a taste test. So first, this is kind of my control. See what the just regular syrup that you can buy in the store is. This is by far the easiest way to do it. This will definitely last you longer too. These will only last about 2 to 3 weeks, and this can stay in the fridge for much longer than that, but give it a little bit of a taste test. Okay, so it's this pretty like ambery color. It is more liquidy than my sauce, but it looks the closest to this. It looks more smooth than this one though, so. It has a lot of flavor, a lot of the spice flavor. It's very warming. And the pumpkin flavor is okay. It does taste a little artificial, I will say. So overall, it tastes good, and it will probably taste really good in the coffee. It's just very strong by itself with all the spices and stuff. So I can see that mellowing out more in the cold foam and being really good. So leave that there. And then let's try the first one that I made. This is my medium recipe, and I'm sure that it will taste delicious. Yeah, this one has a lot more of that pumpkin flavor, and it tastes a lot more natural and stuff, less artificial. And it has a nice amount of sweetness. It's not overpoweringly sweet, and it's a nice amount of the seasonings in it for the pumpkin spice. Yeah, I like that one. And once you really get a whole bunch of like, oh, this is marshmallow flavor, but it does have a great sweetness that you can like tell that there was something in there from that. So, and then finally, let's try my pumpkin spice syrup. Ooh, that was a lot. Ooh, this one's good. I think this one might be my favorite. It did take the longest by far because I had to do multiple steps with cooking off pumpkin and then straining it so that a bunch of the fibers don't get in there, but it did make it a lot smoother than this one. And it's thickening up nice. The sweetened condensed milk added a nice amount of sweetness, but it's not like overpoweringly sweet. And I like that this has so much of the pumpkin spice flavor in it. I did add a tablespoon for this one and a teaspoon for this one. So you can definitely taste that this one does hit you a lot stronger with that, which I do like. Yeah, so overall, I would say just with my taste test, just the syrups alone, I would say this is probably my favorite, second favorite, third favorite. So if you do have the time to make a homemade syrup, these weren't too difficult. This one definitely took longer, but I would say it is worth it. This does have my favorite flavor profile. This one is really good too. It does have a great amount of sweetness, and you could really taste the pumpkin in this one too. I would say you taste the pumpkin more in this one than this one. So if you want more of that pumpkin flavor, go with this one. If you want more of the pumpkin spice flavor, go with this one. But if you don't have time to make it, or you don't use these syrups very often, I would go with this because it's a lot easier. It will stay in your fridge a lot longer, and it's just there. So you kind of just don't have to worry about a thing. But overall, I am very impressed with how these are. Now it is time to make our cold foam and see if that changes my opinions on anything. So I'm gonna try to make them exactly the same. So we'll see how this works out. I'm gonna take 3 tablespoons of half and half first. You can use whatever milk you want to use. I'm just going with this because that's what I have on hand. Some people like theirs with more of a heavier cream, so they'll buy the heavy whip. And some like oat milk or almond milk or however you like to do it. I think that this is gonna froth up fine, so I'm going with this. And then I'm gonna do about a tablespoon of my sauce, just so I really get that flavor in there. I'm gonna make these all the same so that they each get a fair chance of testing them out. And then I get my milk frother, and we're just gonna go in until it starts to get a little frothy. Oh, it's turning a really nice light orange color, and it is frothing up some. Okay, so then I'm going to take my iced cup, and I'm gonna add some coffee to it. Like that. Pour this on top. Looks delicious. And then I have can definitely smell the spices. Yeah, it's good. It's not overpoweringly sweet like I was kind of worried about. So I'm interested to see how these two will fare, because I thought this one was way sweeter than the other two. But you do get some of that pumpkin spice flavor. Yeah, it's very good. It does still have a slightly artificial flavor, but nothing too crazy. So you probably wouldn't notice that if you weren't told that I had it ahead of time. Okay, and again for this one, I'm gonna do 3 tablespoons of half and half. This isn't frothing up as much as I would like it to. So next time I try this out, I'll probably get some way more of a froth. Like this last one was a little bit sad, the froth, but it still tastes great. And so it just tastes like regular creamer as opposed to like the cold foam where it's sitting on top, which I'm a little disappointed by, but it will still work for the sake of testing these because it will mix together fine. I'm gonna rinse this out. I don't wanna get anything into my container. You don't wanna get germs in there. And I'm gonna do a tablespoon of this. And then again, we're gonna whip this up even though it probably won't get that whippy. Just wanna keep things consistent between the 3. Actually, this one seems to be foaming up more. I don't know if it's because there was something, I don't know. Okay, this one may have frothed up a little bit better than that last one. I don't know what the difference would be. I mean, this one is thicker than the sauce, so maybe that had something to do with it. Add my coffee. This looks pretty. Let's give it a stir. Now, this one does have a little more froth on it, but nothing compared to like a Starbucks cold foam that I was planning on doing. So we'll just call this a coffee creamer instead of a cold foam because that is not working out. I think I need to get a heavier whipping cream or something, or mix it for longer. I'm not sure. If you have any comments on like how to fix that, let me know below. This one has a lot more pumpkin flavor than this one. I can just immediately tell that it has that pumpkin flavor. It's good. It's not as sweet as this one, but it is still really good. I do get a little bit of grit from the pumpkin, I'm guessing, or just the spices too. I'm not sure where that's coming from. So it's not quite as smooth as the other one, but I think I like the flavor a little bit better. So give some and take some. Now it is time for my pumpkin spice syrup. I'm gonna do this first so I don't have to rinse this off right after using the half and half. I just don't want to get any contaminants into there because it's going into the refrigerator, whereas this doesn't touch. Now we're gonna give this a good whisk. This one's also getting more frothy, so I don't know what it is about that one that didn't get quite as frothy. Actually, this one might be even getting more frothy than this one, so I don't know what's going on. It's just interesting to experiment and see which one is the best and trying out new things. I love to try out new recipes, so doing these face-off kind of things sounds fun. I want to try one where I'm doing cookies. I do a easy, medium, hard cookie recipe, or maybe like the amount of time it takes, so like one that you put in the oven right away, and then one that you give like 2 hours, usually people say, and then some that are like overnight cookies. See if it really makes a difference. Last one. Give it a stir. Yeah, you can definitely smell that pumpkin spice. Yeah, this one's good. You can taste the pumpkin and the spices, I would say more so in this one. Whereas this one was more pumpkin forward. This one kind of has a good mix of the two. And it has a good amount of sweetness too. It's not overpoweringly sweet, but it does punch through. Whereas like, even in this one, which I thought would taste the sweetest, it didn't come through quite as much as I was expecting based on like what it actually tasted like when I was just tasting it plain. But this one's really good too. You can still get some of the grittiness from this because I didn't have that extract. But overall, I would say that, again, this is my number 1, number 2, and number 3. So I liked both the syrups plain and in my coffee drink the same way. So that's good to know. I mean, I guess that's not that surprising that if you like one plain, you like it in the other drink too. But yeah, I would say that this one has the most depth of flavor and it tastes the most like a pumpkin spice latte would. Very good. I'm very happy with the result. Yeah, this one I would definitely say is number 2 and then number 3. But at the same time, this took the longest. This one didn't take that long, but it definitely, you need to have all the ingredients in your house and you need to make sure you're going through these pretty quickly. I'm gonna be using them in all my drinks next 2 weeks. So get used to get these used up. I also think that these would be really good on top of like ice cream or something. If you get like a vanilla ice cream and just or some on top. That would be really good. So maybe I'll try that too with these. This was a very fun experiment and I'm happy with the results. I didn't know how this was gonna go. I was actually thinking I would maybe like the marshmallow fluff a little bit more because it had slightly more pumpkin, but I really liked how this one came together, and it's a little bit smoother and it has all those flavors that you want and it gives you them all at the same time, whereas I would say this one's definitely more pumpkin forward. And then this one, I mean, it's good, but you just don't taste it as much, which is surprising because when it was on its own, I really got a bunch of it. I don't know, just something about it. It tastes slightly artificial, which I mean, and you can taste it more so in the aftertaste, so. But it's still good, I still like it, I'm not mad about it. This was a very fun experiment. I am going to be trying some more similar to this. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.